you notice any corrections or changes to it. No hands raised. Okay, then. Let's go to the minutes from April 27th. We've had them to review, but take a quick look and see if there's anything that you see that needs to be changed. All right, hearing nothing, may I please have a motion to approve the minutes of April 27th?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 27th as written.
Thank you, Bill. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, I heard two. Who did you get, Erica?
I got Bill and Shannon.
Okay, thank you. All right. All in favor of approving the minutes from April 27th, please raise your hands or say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, Shannon, do we have any public input for tonight?
Me, Erica?
You said Shannon.
Oh, did I? Oh, Shannon and I, because you know what? I'm so used to Shannon because we co-chair the committee.
I know.
Sorry about that. Erica, do we have any public input tonight?
Yes, we do. Mr. Carl Argila is going to provide public input.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Erica, may I ask if I'm being heard?
Yes, you are, sir.
Great, thank you so much, Erica. Thank you, board, again for your patience. My name is Carl Argila. I am the father of Cavan Argila, an intellectually disabled deaf adult who is a client of the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. I am recording the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center board meeting this evening under the provisions of the Bagley-Keene Act, and I will post that recording for public review on my blog at www.sgprc.net. As you know, on June 8th of 2021, the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center became my son's conservator after a 3.5-year probate court action against me. I allege that Mr. Keith Penman, the former San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center Executive Director, took this action as an act of retaliation against me. My son is now living the life of an institutionalized person. He is denied the love and freedom which he enjoyed when he was receiving family-provided care. For example, he has no employment. He lives day to day with nothing to do. On family-provided care, was a truck unloader at Walmart for 9 years, a job which gave Cavan a reason to get up every morning. I am requesting that the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center terminate their conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. I want to note, and I want to thank Mr. Hill, the official minutes of the previous April 27th board meeting accurately state that I am requesting that the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center terminate their conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. So I want to thank you, Mr. Hill, for not perpetuating the culture of deception and misrepresentation engendered by your predecessor. Once again, board, I am requesting that the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center terminate their conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. Thank you again for your time and patience this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Argila. Is there anyone else, Erica?
Yes, Albert Feliciano has public input.
Okay, welcome, Albert.
Oh, thank you, Erica. Hello, good evening, Madam President, Mr. Hill. I'm muted, I'm sorry. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize I was muted. I'm sorry. Good evening, Madam President, Mr. Hill, members of the board, regional center staff, and members of the public. My name is Albert Feliciano, and I'm an advocate with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities, LA office, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. I have an update. It's just an update on our office's statewide training. So again, we continue, my office, the LA office continues with providing statewide trainings to self-advocates, family advocates, anyone that is wanting to take these trainings. So these trainings are free of charge. They're open to any person that wishes to attend. And these trainings are provided every Monday at 10 a.m. The topic varies, time is the same. So the next training coming up is on Monday, June the 6th. We will not be having a training on Monday the 30th due to the holiday, but the next upcoming will be June the 30th in Spanish. And the topic is the role of the regional center and commonly offered services. So I can post this information, or I can drop the flyer in the chat. If not, I can forward it to Ms. Erica, and then if she can, provide this flyer to whoever's wanting to get more information on our trainings or wishes to attend. But that's all I have. Thank you for the time, and thank you all.
All right, thank you, Albert. Is there anyone else, Erica?
No, ma'am, that's it.
All right, thank you. Okay, then, let's move on to Roy, your financial report, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Let me try to share my screen here. Okay.
Just to remind the board and our guests tonight. So the financial report was already approved by the Executive Finance Committee. So Roy presents it here tonight to give information to the whole board. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So the financials in front of you is for March 31st, 2022. And in operations, we are still projecting a balance of $745,797. That's after projecting expenditures of $35,536,000 against our current C3 allocation, which is $36,282,000. Everything is looking good in operations. Again, we expect we'll be spending this down as we wind up the year. Hopefully, by the next couple of months, we won't have any more balance. But again, at this time, there is a small balance of $745,000. FRC, the same, nothing has changed. We're going to spend all of the allocation for FRC, $154,564, as well as the foster grandparent and the CPPDC closure. Looking at our graph here, an ops graph, very evident that we're spending more money this year compared to last year. So both in operating expenses and salaries and fringes. In purchase of service, we also are projecting a balance of $15,045,430. Again, against our allocation of $318,032,645. Projected expense is $987,215. CPP and all that, very small amount. Projecting, I think we're going to spend all of our CPP allocation of $320,868. So our POS graph, expenditure graph, again, 123 for out of home, almost 124 million, 110 million from the prior year, 81, and as you can see very clearly, we're spending more money both in out of home and day. Respite, other, except for transportation, we're slightly lower than last year. Nothing has changed there much. Looking good as far as the purchase of service. Our cash position, we have adequate money to pay our bills. Currently, we have almost $54 million, and we still have about 56 million of receivables from the state. ICF's minor amount of almost 1.8 million. And of course, you know, the other receivables and prepaid expenses. Our biggest payable or liability is still the state. Of course, this is the advance for the last 3 years, current year, prior year, and second prior. They haven't collected the second prior. They're going to be collecting that soon. They're closing up the year. In fact, I have in my report, I have an amendment. I think it's an A9 amendment that we also need to approve, but that closes out the year. Accounts payable is just payable to our vendors, $22 million, 367,000. So there you go. Really good position, cash position that we have. I don't foresee any cash flow issues, even as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, and of course, coming up the new budget year. So we're in good shape, basically, financially. And of course, you have the details that's also included in there. That's the old version of the financial report. We've always included that. It's for your files and review. It gives you more detail, both in POS and operations. So that's all I have as far as the financials. Yes.
Thank you, Roy. I was just going to ask if anyone had any questions. Okay. Also, I just want to acknowledge that Natalie is here now. Welcome, Natalie. Okay, Roy, continue.
Yes, we have, hold on a second. We have, I also submitted I believe the A9 amendment. Yes, and this is just to close. Let me just open it up here for a second. This is to close the fiscal year, and we're submitting this for your approval and acceptance. So this is the second prior year, which is 1920 fiscal year. So in this last cleanup allocation, or in this case, a deallocation, there's some monies that are taken away from our allocation, mainly CPP, 175,000 for regular CRDP startup, or 175,000. And then there's also a deallocation of 342,900 to a total of $517,900. So this is basically to close out the fiscal year. This month we'll be closing the fiscal year, and then And of course, as we open up the new fiscal year, then the prior year becomes the second prior. So at any given time, there are three fiscal years that are open for claims or adjustments into our allocation. So I'm requesting that we approve this so that way our president could sign this standard agreement. It's also in your, by the way, in your file, on your files. That's been.
I have a question, Roy, regarding the removal of funds, CPP and otherwise. Can you provide a rationale for why DDS chose to do that?
Well, essentially what they're doing is that if you're not able to use that, there could be a technical adjustment here, and maybe Lucina can help me for this fiscal year. I was at that time involved in the budgeting for this second prior year. But usually what happens is at the end of the fiscal year, when monies are not needed anymore, they are being reallocated to other centers that needs it, or just left alone in the budget, because basically you can't claim them anyway. But if they do need it in that line item, they would move money around. That's essentially what there is. Monies that we are not able to use.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can give you a little bit more explanation. The CPP budget is based upon projections. So you're projecting that you're going to develop a resource, and you may not be able to develop it, and that's the startups. And if you don't, then that money typically is drawn back to the state, and they may reallocate it to another center. We benefited from that more recently, where we get additional allocations for some of our projects. The regular placement, I think that that's gone away, and what that was is that placement was tied to placements out of the developmental center. So what they would do is they would give you credits. You get credits, and those credits are basically, they would offset the costs, any costs that you would have for residential services or any allied services related to someone that's coming out of the developmental center. So you'll probably see that go away because there's not many people in the developmental center.
Thank you.
Also, just in terms of CPP or CRDP, it's not specifically for us. There weren't any projects that we didn't get off the ground. It was at least some COVID projects, I think, where the providers didn't bill for all of their COVID costs. They gave some startup during that time, and so some of the providers didn't bill, and so we had to return that back. So I think that's where that money is. The 175 is about.
Thank you.
And just to assure the board, when we get allocations or deallocations, amendments, we have our fiscal staff, fiscal analyst that verifies all this, making sure that that was something that was verified and that the funds are either needed or not needed. So it goes through a process within fiscal before we agree on the amendments. So just to make sure that you all know that.
All right, thank you, Roy. So just as a matter of, I don't know, protocol or whatever, on the agenda, should this item had a consent next to it to indicate that it was something we were going to be voting on tonight? I'm not saying this will prevent us from voting. I'm just asking.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
On the other column, it says consent.
Okay, I don't see it. I see a consent next to review of contracts. So.
Oh yeah, I don't see it up there. Right.
So the column is for that whole column.
Oh, well, that's good to know. I always thought it went across like it was kind of a line, like contracts.
No,
Okay,
for the whole
got
thing.
it. Okay, that's why I'm asking, because I'm just looking at everything a little bit different now. So, all right. Okay, well, thank you, Roy, for that then. So can I have a motion to approve the A9 contract for the 2019-2020 fiscal year? Okay, thank you, Gigi.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. All right, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? No abstain. Okay, motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
And you, Sheila, you have the actual standard agreement on the file.
So I will sign them.
Yeah, electronically sign them, and then I think the process. It goes to the state, and then it comes back to us once everything is signed.
I saw, right. Okay.
And Sheila, Susan had to abstain.
All right, thank you. Susan, I didn't say that. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. I had my hand up. I knew it was recorded. No problem.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't ask, you know what? And that was my neglect there. And I can't see anything, so I didn't see a hand up for.
I'll say it next time because I can't vote on any of the contracts either, so I'll just speak up.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Sheila.
Well, speaking of contracts, if you've looked at it, there's a lot of contracts tonight. So first we're going to start with Sal's, and then we'll move on to Lucina's. So Sal. And actually, let me see here. So Sal presented, right? Sal and Lucina presented all of their contracts at Executive Finance. We voted to move them forward to the board to vote on tonight. Okay, Sal?
Yeah, good morning, Madam President. Good morning, board members and our staff. I'm here to talk about our contract that we actually got a 3-year grant from LA Care. We did have them actually attend our last meeting. They weren't able to attend today, but they were able to answer a lot of questions from the board members. And as you're well aware, this is something that we're really looking forward to, this amazing partnership for the next 3 years. And what it is, it's a grant that's going to be 3 years for $500,000. And due to the amount, our executive, Mr. Hill, wanted me to bring it to the board, and which we did present at our executive finance committee. And now we're bringing here just for to finalize that. Is there any other questions that you'd like for me to answer? But just to kind of let you know right off the bat, this we're hoping to start this contract, hopefully by like June 1st, July 1st. And the first year, I believe it's going to be for about $150,000. But like I said, it's a 3-year contract for $500,000.
Okay, well, this is very a different kind of contract, because actually this is a wonderful one in which we have received $500,000.
Yes.
We're bringing it to the board for a vote on it because there will be accountability for how that money is spent. Did I get that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And a lot of you did hear, but for those of you that weren't, really it's for us to make sure that our referral process is equitable, that our community has as many ways of not only receiving information through pediatricians, our outreach, but also that we make our website as equitable as possible. And this really what it is. It's a partnership for us to create this whole first 5 mentality throughout California. And we as a regional center really look forward to that, because I feel that our numbers continue to go up, especially even through the pandemic. Our executive and our entire team never closed our doors through the assessment process. But I know with this partnership, I know that we're going to really touch the lives of a lot of little babies and families that really need us, especially in today's times.
It's a great opportunity. Okay, well then I'll ask for a motion for the board to approve this first 5 contract, the receipt of $500,000 to expand and improve early identification. So may I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Bill. And second, I'm gonna. Yep, I see your hand there, Preeti. Thank you. Okay, so all in favor of approving this contract, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain?
I abstain.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll look forward to hearing as that progresses. Thank you, Sal.
We'll report back.
Thank you. Okay.
I actually have a question, Sheila.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Gigi.
We have a guest, I believe, in the room, and since he is not showing his camera, I think it would be important for us to have him introduce himself.
Thank you. And that is Paul, the name that's coming up?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, could you please introduce yourself to the board and staff members? Paul, would you please introduce yourself to the board and staff members? Okay, Erica? To me, it seems that if he's not interested in being transparent, he might need to be in the waiting room till he's ready. It's kind of uncomfortable to have somebody here that has not.
He's writing in the chat.
Oh, he is. Okay, sorry. I didn't see him. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. And Paul, are you an individual served, a community member? Can you tell us in the chat if you can't tell us verbally?
Community member.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your interest, and Gigi, thank you for that. Okay, Lucina.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead.
Okay, you have a lot of contracts, so I'm going to ask that you present them in groups.
Okay.
We'll vote on them in groups.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, President James and board members. The last Executive Finance Committee, I presented several contracts. I presented 3 clinical contracts for 3 of our intake psychologists, where their contracts are going to exceed $250,000 because we are going to be allowing them to have more hours due to our intake, the need in our intake division. And those are contracts for Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Carrillo, and psychological group under Dr. Cooper. And so those are clinical contracts that I would like to seek approval now that the Executive Finance has approved them to come to the board.
A chance to look at these, those of you who aren't don't participate on the Executive Finance Committee. So are there any questions? Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion then to approve the contracts with Dr. Carrillo, the psychological group with Dr. Cooper, and the contract with Dr. Vasquez. Okay, Gigi?
I move that we approve the 3 psychological vendors' contracts. Thank you.
Thank you. Second, please.
I second.
Thank you, Preeti. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstain?
I abstain.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Motion passes for those 3. Thank you.
Thank you, directors. I appreciate that. The next group of contracts are there were 5 residential homes that I presented to the Executive Finance a couple of weeks ago, including one enhanced behavioral support home, which is a highly specialized home in our catchment area for children. And those contracts include Hope House Mary Jo, our enhanced behavioral support home, Hope House Halifax, which is a special residential facility, Easter Seals Victoria, which is another specialized residential facility, People's Care Maverick, which is a specialized residential facility, and Flagship Yelton, which is a residential facility. All of these will have received more than $250,000 based on their rates for this next year that they're in operation. So we would like to seek, now that the executive finance has asked for this to go to the board, we are seeking final approval from the board tonight.
Okay, can I have a motion, please, to approve those contracts as articulated by Lucina? That's Hope House, Halifax House, Hope House Mary Jo, Hope House Halifax, Easter Seals Victoria, People's Care Maverick, and Flagship at Yelton. Okay, Preeti, I see
Motion to
your
approve is
hand.
recommended.
Okay. All right, Bill and Preeti, I see your hand. Is that a second?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. All in favor of approving these contracts, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain?
I abstain.
Thank you. All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, directors. We appreciate it. The last contract is a community services startup contract. We received $400,000 from the department to develop an accessory dwelling unit that's on the property of one of our housing development homes. And we're going to be building it as soon as we can get approval. It is, like I said, for $400,000. $350,000 is for rehab, $50,000 for the developer's fee. And so we'd like to seek final approval tonight so we can begin our startup contract with Brilliant Corners.
All right, thank you. All right, can I have a motion to approve the contract with Brilliant Corners? Thank you, Gigi. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shannon. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain?
I abstain.
Thank you. All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, board members. And President James, the only contract authorization you will see from these proposals are for Brilliant Corners, because that is a startup contract. So you'll be receiving something to sign later.
All right, thank you.
Probably.
All right, thank you, Lucina. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next on the agenda, we'll have committee reports. And so from the Community Relations Legislative Advisory Committee, as you can see, there were no meetings in April and May for lack of a sufficient number of directors. And so what we're doing for June is I've asked, and she's accepted, that Preeti Subramaniam will chair the meeting in June. I'll also be in attendance in that meeting. And we will be taking it from there. All right, so that's part of my report. Okay, so Shannon, do you want to give the update for the advisory committee for individuals served and their families?
Yeah, we had a good turnout. We had a presentation of what was his name? We had we had a presentation from community members of your members, and I think here that are really good, and we had other updates as well. So
okay, so we reviewed the behavioral health treatment policy, and that was one that we had actually voted on, if you recall, like a year ago, July, or what. And so the DDS had just gotten back and said that there needed to be some changes to it. So we reviewed it and the committee approved that it be forwarded to the board. So for our review, and we will vote on it next month. All right. And then we also had like a great presentation. I'm sorry, Shannon, if you said this and I didn't hear because my dog is like barking. From the specialized committees that are taking care of, with the 1-to-40 ratio, people that have not had any service or very low, under 2,000 a year purchase of services. And so they're being targeted. I think, what do we have, like 200 people that the list was given from DDS, and they're going to be tracked, and we're very excited. Great team of people. We have 5 new service coordinators specifically so we can keep a 1-to-40 ratio. And thank you, Erica. Behavioral health treatment policy is already in our meeting materials, okay? And then we'll vote next month. So we had a good meeting, lots of good stuff happening. Okay, so let's see here. Vendor Advisory Committee.
Okay. I am putting a link in the chat. I'll talk about it here. So businesses and programs that serve individuals at the regional center are continuing to experience a hiring crisis that's impacting the service for individuals. They're having to turn away referrals, provide fewer hours of service, and cherry pick who and how they serve individuals with the current staffing ratios. I was personally disappointed that the governor's budget did not include an acceleration of the rate increase. Also very disappointed that ARCA's priorities and advocacy did not include the rate increases because I think it directly affects individuals served. I think it sends a really poor message when you make more money flipping hamburgers than taking care of the people that we serve. So the vendors have decided to kind of organize in terms of advocacy. There's a letter writing campaign going on right now. And in your materials, Mr. Hill's sample letters are all included. If you would be willing to look at those and consider writing letters, we would greatly appreciate it. There's also a letter being sent by the Lanterman Coalition, and that's the link that's in your chat. It takes about 2 minutes to do it. You just put in your information, it plugs it into the legislators in your zip code and to the governor's office, and is a beautiful letter about why it's important that those rate increases happen. The vendors also received the DEI training last week, and thank you to the leadership for making that happen for us. We can all do better, and education is part of that. So thank you very much for that training. We'll be meeting in June to discuss how funds can be used to enhance the home and community-based services. There's a chunk of money. I don't know if Lucina wants to talk more about that. She knows more than I do, but we're going to be getting together. There's a group of vendors that'll be getting together to talk about how we can support vendors in coming into compliance. Let's see, the VAC is going to lose 6 members as of July 1st, so we're busy recruiting for those positions. That includes personal phone calls and a little bit of pressure in the Monday meetings, as well as an e-blast that Eric is working on for us too. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and with the day that we had yesterday and the things that we heard yesterday, it's so important for us to remember to check in with each other, to check in with the people that we love if people are getting quiet. I would normally say if they're not getting on camera, and they usually do, but that's me tonight. But check in with the people that you care about, make sure they're doing okay, and if you need support, get support. It's just really important, especially now, to be looking out for each other. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Susan?
No, I just have a comment to underscore what she just said. It's particularly important right now. So thank you, Susan, for bringing that up.
Thank you. Okay, then I'll turn it over to Gigi, Strategic Development Advisory Committee, for your report.
So, as you might notice from the agenda, the Strategic Development Advisory Committee has been busier than I believe I've ever witnessed. And I've been on that committee since before I was a board member, I believe, or at least as long as I've been a board member. So at least 5 years. But we have made great progress with the SOAR analyses. We actually completed the entire thing, and I have a report. I can actually ask Erica to include it in meeting materials so you can have it for your record. We have a tentative date for the strategic planning workshop that we had wanted to have with the consultant, and we had tentatively projected June 11th. But Yvonne, I'm sorry, Raquel, we have to get confirmation from you. So if you wouldn't mind, it would be great if you could reach out to the consultant to see if she's available on that day.
Yep.
And then we can plan accordingly. So thanks for that. We also have been, our board is sparse, as are some of our committees. So we have had a record number of interviewed candidates for our committees and eventual board membership this year. I believe, if my math's correct, it's actually been 7 people that we've actually selected to be on the board, and we've interviewed more than that 7. Not to be on the board, to be on committees. In fact, all of them are interested in board membership down the road, I believe. So we have, and we also, as you know, have a very lean board in terms of numbers, leaner than I think in the history of the regional center we've ever had. In fact, we are out of compliance by 1 member. So we do need to come back in compliance as we enter the next fiscal year, 2022-2023. Accordingly, I'm going to give you, I'd like approval for several members who we interviewed over the last month and a half for committee membership. So the first worst person is Flor Tolley. You already approved her to be on the Community Relations Legislative Advisory Committee. She's requested a change and would like to be on the advisory committee for individuals served and their families. So that's the first approval that I'd like. So I'm not sure, Madam President, if you want to have that go forward. I'm assuming you want individuals approved, so we have several. So I thought we might get started with that.
Okay, let's do it. So can I have a motion for Flor Tolley to be on the advisory committee for individuals served and their families?
I'll make that motion.
All right, thank you, Shannon. Second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. That was Susan?
Susan, yes.
Thank you. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's unanimous, so that passes. Thank you.
The next candidate is Paula Rodardi. She also has been interviewed. Paula is new since the last meeting we have, and she's an individual. She is a family member of an individual served. She also would, we are recommending her for the Community Relations Legislative Advisory Committee. So we'd like approval to put her on that committee effective immediately.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion for that, please?
Sheila, just a procedural question. I'm on the strategic development committee. Can I make that motion? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Make that motion, please.
All right, thank you, Bill. Second?
I second that motion.
I second.
Gigi beat you to it this time, pretty. All right, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate that we just interviewed this past week is Trish Gonzalez, and she is a community member. Thank you to Bill for helping to recruit her. She was a fabulous interviewee. We're recommending that she serve on the Legislative Community Relations Advisory Committee, so we'd like approval for that.
Okay, I have a motion then for Trish Gonzalez on the Community Relations Legislative Advisory Committee. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Second.
I second.
Thank you, Gigi. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, again, unanimous. Thank you.
And our final candidate for committee membership this evening is Jessica Porter, also a family member of an individual served. And we would recommend her to be on the advisory committee for individuals served and their families. We'd like approval for that.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion as well.
Thank you, Bill. A second?
I second.
Thank you, Preeti. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
So
And,
it's kind of a record-breaking fiscal year, the number of committee members we've recruited and successfully offered membership on our committees. And we hope that they will also, a subset of them will be ready for board membership in the near future, particularly since we have a very slim board this year, and we will be having 6 members sunset off at the end of fiscal year 2022-2023. So we have really good members. They also meet some of the other needs that we have in terms of the sociodemographics and experiential requirements that DDS sets forward in the statute. So we're really excited about these new members.
I have a question. Can I just ask, is there a limit to how many committee members there can be? Because Shannon and I had a meeting last week with a group of young adults who are interested, but we weren't sure if there's a limit or...
There is not. For committee membership, there is not. The board actually has a high end of 15 members, I believe.
Yes.
But the committees do not have a high end limit.
Okay.
At low end, they have to have a chair who is also a board member, and then committee members as well.
Okay.
And we've been, Susan, it's important that I'm glad to hear that you're thinking about recruitment, because as you know, as Sheila announced earlier this evening, we have had a dramatic drop in at least one of our committees, and that's Labor Relations, in addition to have a drop in the overall membership of the board, and it's really been unprecedented. As far as I can remember, for the last 25 years, we've never had this happen for board membership. So we are looking for new members and excited to have that happen. Okay, great. So that's the second item from this committee. The third item, as you know, the Strategic Development Committee doubles as the nominating committee. And we have a little bit of unprecedented process again this time. And that is because we are so slim on board members that we need to bring new members onto the board beginning July 1 and then fill 2 offices at that time, because we will have one person sunsetting off. And at the moment we do not have a second vice president. So thankfully to the current board members who are officers, less Shannon, who needs to sunset off because of her role as working for a vendor. Preeti has agreed to continue to serve as our board secretary. Bill has agreed to continue to serve as our board treasurer. And Sheila has agreed to continue to serve as our board president. So that is a modified slate of officers. The plan will be to vote on those officers at the next meeting. Just to review the statute, section 1504, the nomination of officers, the director may be nominated for an office only by the Strategic Development Advisory Committee in accordance with section 2102, or by written nomination signed by at least one director, listing the names of a total of 5 directors who support the nomination, and that is submitted to the board's executive assistant at least 10 days before the election. So we're putting a notice out that we will be electing the officers that I just announced at the June meeting. At the June meeting, we plan to present the remaining 2 officers. It's basically first and second vice president. These will be individuals that we hope have actually been on the board before and are interested in returning. At the moment, the executive of the Strategic Development Committee has been meeting with them and preparing to nominate them. But we are slightly out of order this spring, just because of what happened in the fall part of the year with resignations from the board. So we hope that you'll be patient with us as we have elections for part of our officers in June, and then the remaining in July, the 2 VPs. We also plan to nominate people to be a part of the board to, again, make the board membership much more robust. With that in mind, although it's customary that new committee members wait a year before they move as a committee member to the board, this year we believe that we have very qualified members who've been on the board's committees for several months, all of whom we know are interested in board membership. So the Strategic Development Committee will be very busy serving as a nominating committee and hoping that we can recruit as much as between 13 and 15 members for the board beginning July 1, 2022, so that we'll have a robust board like we have in most past years. So that's as busy as a report I could possibly provide for this committee. And thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to thank Gigi, Bill, and Shannon for their work. They're the board members that serve on that committee. unprecedented, the amount of work that you're doing. I've been a part of the board, either through myself or with Quinn, for many years, and I've never seen such an active strategic development committee. And it's a lot of work. I know you're doing a lot of extra hours. And on behalf of everyone served by the regional center, I thank you very much.
And we would be remiss if we didn't notice and mention our other two committee members who are not currently board members. At least one of them is interested in returning to the board. She's a former board member, and maybe a second, we're not sure. But at the moment, they're not on the board, but they have been at those meetings as well. Julie Chetney and Bruce. So, and Bruce, just to fill you all in, he has been quite ill for the last year, and he's returning to that committee very robustly. And so we're happy to have him back.
Thank you. And we know Bill has always shown up. He's been a big supporter, you know, of the regional center and a past president and everything. So again, thank you very much. A great report and good work. We have some new committee members, so I'm excited about that. I'm going to piggyback on that for my report. You know, and so when we enter into a new fiscal year, the president can decide, you know, who serves on what committees. So really what I'm going to be doing, we've just voted in those individuals. The new people will be serving on the committees that we just voted them in for. But for other committees, I am making contact with people on those committees to find out, are they still interested in staying on that committee? Some people are interested in maybe moving, having a new experience. And also because we want to see, like, where is the need, right? We want to have, like Gigi uses the word robust. And I love that word because we need robust, you know, committees so we can really get the work done that we are here to do. So, so anyway, I'm going to be making contact. We've already started talking with some people. The other thing that's going to be happening is in the bylaws, you know, we talk about attendance. And typically, before the pandemic, the attendance was if you missed 4 meetings a year or 3 consecutive meetings, you would be considered to have technically resigned. All right. When it shifted due to the pandemic, because of technology and just everything that was going on with everyone, we suspended that and we loosened that. And but now it's, you know, it's 2.5 years later, and so we want to take a look at that policy again, because what's happened is, you know, especially on the committee that Shannon and I co-chair for individuals served in their families, we have not had as robust participation. It's kind of building back up, but a lot of times we haven't had enough participation to make quorum and to really get business done. So Erica is going to be getting some information to me in terms of people and their attendance, and then we're going to be having a conversation, right? We need to have a conversation, like, is it in fact time to revert back to our board, our bylaws, all right, and the policy there. So we will be talking about that coming up. And then that also goes for our leave of absence policy. Technically, it's like, I think 3 months and 1 leave of absence a year. And so we just want to take a look at that so we can really build up again. And going forward, there's just a lot going on, and we have some great programs happening. We have a lot of work still to do, and we need people that show up and are able to show up. And also, as we see with our board member, Mary, we talked about this in our committee, we need to make sure that there is accessibility for everyone to be able to participate. And a lot of people have not been able to participate because of technology, but Mary's been one she's shown up. And she's enthusiastic and she's vocal, and we really miss her voice not being here. So, and it's because she hasn't had an aide able to show up and help her, someone who can get her online with us. So we heard earlier from Mr. Hill that you're going to be looking into that and seeing if we can address that. And we want to make sure that there's no accessibility hindrance to anyone being participating. So that's all I really want to say. I think right now.
Sheila, can I add to that for a couple of reasons? Would it be
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
So regarding Mary, the issue, Anthony and Erica, is that she can access things, but she needs help because of her physical fine motor challenges to actually get the links open. In the past, when I was president, I worked with Sherry and the former assistant that she had working at her home. That person is no longer working at the home. Sherry is still working as a vendor. So if I can be so bold as to make a suggestion, if perhaps Sherry can go over on the evenings that she would have normally if we were face to face, been her attendant in person for meetings, and at least get her started for the committee member meeting that she's on, and also the other meeting. I had also offered to get another iPad for Mary. She claims that her iPad still works. So if it doesn't, I'm still willing to give her a second iPad. Erica, I see your hand.
So when I spoke to Mary today, she told me that Sherry can't help her. I asked her the same question, what's happening with Sherry, because Sherry was awesome. I guess Sherry is taking night classes, so that's why she's unable to do that. My understanding is that she was supposed to have somebody today, but that person was not going to show up after all.
Can we get another assistant that it doesn't necessarily work at her home to just go over and help her? Because when we did it in the beginning, the first 2 years, Mary was very participatory. What we did was Sherry would go over, but I think her name was Jacqueline, and I can't remember for sure. She actually was working at the home, so together they would get her started. It's very challenging for Mary because of the physical fine motor challenges she has, but she really wants to be participatory, to the effect that at one point she was literally on my phone when all these things started going awry to her. And I don't think it's fair that because I know no one's doing this deliberately, but because she has a physical challenge associated with her qualifying disability, that we don't try and figure out a way to make it work. So I'm pretty confident we can, but I think we need to do some joint problem solving. I see Lucina's hand.
I was just going to say, if Mr. Hill, if you don't mind, I'll follow up with the facility. And also, we have a lending library that might have an iPad that's easier for her to use. That we can, through our lending library. So
yeah. And one thing we could do too is that we have, I wrote some notes down. We'll have Hortensia Sanchez. She's an occupational therapist.
Perfect. That would be helpful.
Some help. And I think the other thing too, if we can get Lucina, how we have the lending library with the 7 regional centers, and they have these really special, neat.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, we could get those iPads, the JPads.
Yeah, a more accessible electronic tablet would be
it stands up by itself, Dr. Ragusa. And
that's even better.
Initiate meetings alone without you having to touch it.
That's ideal, because the challenge is she can't touch it. With the level of fine motor coordination she has. Since COVID, I have done that outside of her home, trying to help her with masks and gloves and everything, and it's very hard for her. And I don't want to put her in a compromising situation, because it's not for her lack of trying. Whereas some individuals have had a difficult time even attending on Zoom, some former board members, et cetera, that sunsetted off, one in particular. Mary, that hasn't been the case. So if we can try and do some joint problem solving, I do think having an OT go and help her and just to problem solve to get her started, Mary can figure it out. And I know she wants to, so I'm excited.
Thank you, Dr. Ragusa. We'll definitely surround her with the supports needed. And just last week we approved, on the same subject, we approved a device to help, I think Lucina was there, to help prop up an iPad. And so whatever equipment she needs in order so that she can access devices and participate and communicate, we will definitely look into that.
She will be very excited. So thank you all for helping.
Okay, thank you. I've been reminded by Yvonne in the chat that any further conversation, maybe about an individual served, we can do in a different setting, a closed setting. And Susan.
Oh, thank you very much. That's really important, Yvonne. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. And then Susan says, in terms of talking about individuals served, that is a need, and it was a big concern with the individuals served that she says we, and I think you mean you and Shannon, met with last week. So this is obviously a relevant topic, and we can speak about it generally and individually. We will do that privately. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Really good suggestions there. Okay. All right. On now to Mr. Hill, the Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Madam President and Board of Directors. And we're going to go through some things. You know, it's that time of year, and at that time of year is the May revise, and it's the revisions to the governor's budget proposal on January 10th. And some of the things that remained, and I know a lot of us are happy about that, is the reduction of the caseload ratio for children, not only in early intervention, but those children that are 3 to 5. So that's still there. What that means is that for every regional center in the state, we're going to see tremendous growth in the number of service coordinators, not necessarily number of kids, but number of service coordinators, because we're going to reduce the caseload ratios. Also, we're going to see a growth in the number of managers. We are predicting, Roy and myself and some others, we've done some forecasting, and we believe the number's right about 40 service coordinators, about 6 managers in order to deal with that. But however, you remember when the governor ran for office, he really stated that he was going to do a lot of investment in what they call early childhood development. And so in the May revise, he came back at it, and he's reduced the eligibility criteria threshold for early intervention from 33% delay to 25% delay. The other thing that he did is he's allowing consideration for children that have fetal alcohol syndrome. And then he basically separated the categories for language delays. Before, you have to have both expressive and receptive communication delays. Moving forward, you know, if this survives, those would be 2 separate areas that are evaluated. So what does that mean? That means there's going to be more children served by the regional center. The other thing, we know there's going to be more children because last year he added provisional eligibility. So we're keeping children that are ages 3 to 5 that in many instances we wouldn't keep because it basically came up with a new eligibility criteria. So those are exciting times. The other thing that's in the May revise is investments in the stability of the workforce for regional centers and for our service providers, but the investments don't go far enough. And the things that are missing, the 2 major things that are missing, and Susan talked about that. There is nothing in there with respect to revisions to the core staffing formula. The core staffing formula is, I think, the root cause for the caseload ratio gap. The formula hasn't been updated for 40 years. It funds a service coordinator salary at $34,000. There is Devin Mathis. He's an assembly member in the Fresno area. He's a parent. He has 2 children that are in the system. He did make a budget request, you know, for updating the formula, keeping it up to date. We hope that that moves through. The SEIU, which is a labor union, they're behind it as well. And then what we've got to do is that we've got to do our part. And we do our part by participating. And you participate by writing letters to the governor and writing letters to the lawmakers. You know, we put them in office. So we've got to participate. And what I've done is I wrote letters to all of the lawmakers that are in the districts. There's where we have our population, people, our stakeholders live, all of them. I wrote a letter to every lawmaker that is critical in the decision-making for the core staffing formula. And I did the same thing for the acceleration of the rate reform. That was another component that was not part of the May revise. We know that without that, it's going to be very tough for the 380,000 individuals served to receive the services that they're entitled to receive. In the Lanham Act, they're not going to be able to do that because the monies aren't there for our service providers to adjust salaries, to adjust benefits, to compete. The thing that's I find astonishing is that there's $97.5 billion in surplus. That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And what we're asking for is a one-time investment. It's not ongoing, to accelerate that rate reform. Without it, it's going to be very hard for the service providers to return to the capacity that they had prior to the pandemic. And who loses in that equation? So the good thing is that everybody's energized. We did it before with the caseload ratio gap last year. I believe we're going to do it again. But we got to make sure that the governor and the lawmakers hear us. Mm-hmm. And we're not asking for luxuries. This is essential. Mm-hmm. It'll get us back to where we need to be as far as recovery in our system. We have a lot of families that need these services, a lot of families that aren't receiving respite, a lot of families that are tired. They're working, they're doing their best to keep their children at home. We don't want to find that we built this system for all these years, and we don't want it to have too many more difficulties moving forward. It's already had that with the pandemic. The time to act is now. We're hopeful that the policymakers will get aboard with us and partner with us. We think it's something that needs to be done. And so, I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep talking about it. And I want you to do the same thing. And we're hopeful that we'll get these things in. The good thing on the acceleration of the rate reform, there is a group of senators that have put forward a budget request. So the good thing is that we have lawmakers talking about this. Mm-hmm. And the wonderful thing, Blanca Rubio, she's in our area. We met with her. She's sponsoring the revisions to the core staff report. So there's some traction. Mm-hmm. Is there any questions about the May revision? There's a couple other things that's good about it. There is a $500 stipend that's for any direct support staff. The other thing is that there is what you call a tuition reimbursement program for service coordinators or in statute it says service coordinators. We're hopeful that it's going to end up saying a regional center staff person. And what the stipend is that the proposal is that, if a person goes back to school, they have to go and get an advanced degree in human services. And then they would get $10,000 of tuition reimbursement for 3 years. But they're going to have to stay within the system for a certain amount of years. The other piece, the family fees have not gone away. There is a suspension of those for 6 months. There's a proposal to make adjustments or pilot a different type of supportive living service where it's going to use, electronics and technology to provide supports. We'll see how that looks. My concern about that is privacy. That's my concern, is privacy. So hopefully they're going to be able to do it that way in a way that's going to respect someone's privacy that's living on their own. The other piece is that there's a 10% increase for the intermediate care facilities. And so that will continue. It's about 6,000 people that are served in those facilities. And then the half-day billing is going away. And so what that means is that providers don't have to meet a certain threshold in order to receive their daily rate. So those are the highlights. There's one piece too that DDS has, and there has a lot of things in there, but one thing is they have is a new division. And that division is called the Division of I think it's community assistance and resolutions, about $4.4 million for 20 staff to support individuals served and their families with resolving things that come up with service delivery or policies, and to help assist in the appeals process. So that's the May revise. There is in your meeting materials, there's ARCA's response, and the response is positive. However, it states in there that, they really want there to be more investments or a little bit more moves towards the adjustment of the core staffing formula. And Susan's right, there wasn't mention in there with respect to the acceleration of the rate review. But any questions on the May revise? No, it's a lot. Okay. Moving on to the caseload ratio plan of correction. You should have that in your meeting materials. Our plan was submitted recently, and the only adjustments in the plan was there was public input that we received, and the input was for training that occurred for those service coordinators that are working with our deaf and hard of hearing population, better recruitment efforts for securing African American service coordinators, and also securing service coordinators that speak Korean language. And so we're required to put that in our plan. And so we put that in our plan. We submitted the plan to DDS, and they'll respond to the plan. But we all know there's no way at the local level, any regional center is going to capture all of us together, $87.5 million in savings to close the caseload ratio gap. It's just not going to do it. So the fix is really the core staffing formula. We've got to fix it. It's funding a service coordinator salary of $34,000. And we're hopeful that they're going to do that. But any questions with respect to the caseload ratio plan? It's posted on our webpage too. It's there as well as in your meeting materials. All right, the last piece is Medicaid waiver. You guys want to hear about this? And what it is a federal program. And regional centers are required to have federal programs. In Medicaid waiver, what happened was that in 1969, California came up with the Lanterman Act, and it took on the full responsibility for funding services for people with developmental disabilities. In the 80s, they felt, well, hey, we really want the federal government to participate in this. And so California got involved in what they call the Medicaid waiver program, where you'll hear references home and community-based services waiver. And so in being part of that program, every regional center is audited. Their program's audited. The program has three major components. One is Medicaid waiver. We have about, I think, 4,000 individuals served that are part of that. And what it is that they have to have certain goals and objectives in their IPP. There's got to be certain choices offered. There's monitoring of medications. There's monitoring of specific objectives that's part of the conditions they have. And there's a lot of paperwork. So there's a lot of paperwork. That's part of it. The other piece is, if you heard this term called Title 19, and that's called Targeted Case Management Services, TCM. What that is that service coordinators are required to document everything that they did. Telephone call, documentation, collateral contacts, telephone call. There's like 4 different areas, documentation, and they're required to do this. The good thing, the interesting thing about it is that those activities, they are billed at an hourly rate. That rate is established by DDS. We're going through, all regional centers are going through the rate review process at this time, where there's an hourly amount. Unfortunately, we don't know where those dollars go. I have no idea where those dollars go. But the Medicaid waiver dollars, 50% of that offsets the cost for purchase of service. So it offsets that 50%. So we know where that goes. The other piece of the program you'll see in there is called the nursing home reform. That's a small component of the regional center service delivery, very small. And what that is that if you have someone that lives in a skilled nursing facility, the regional center is required to do an assessment to determine if the individual needs services and supports. And so that's looked at as well. But when you look at this report, there's a couple of pages I want you to take a look at. And they're pages 15 and 17. Those are the pages you want to look at. And you'll find that Sangate did really well in every area except for two. In one where we received 50% met, had to do with IPPs that includes the schedule and type and amount of services and supports purchased by the regional center. You'll see that on page 17. And then the other area, let's see here. Oh, it's not too bad. It's 94. We've got 100 everywhere, but the other area is on page 15, and it has to do with the choice of placement form. It's a DS 2020, and what that is if someone moves out of a certain living arrangement, the regional center is required to update that form. So anytime there's movement between a facility that is reimbursable through Medicaid waiver, you got to update that form. And if you don't, then you're going to get dinged by the auditors. The other thing that's interesting, if you looked at the date of the audit period, it's 2 years ago, and we just started our new audit. So the audit report is trailing the audit by 2 years. We just started our new Medicaid waiver audit on Monday. So any questions about Medicaid waiver, Title 19, nursing home reform?
Thank you for that report. So you included, though, all of those reports, right? In the meeting. We have that available if anyone wants to take a look and read that. When I got a copy of everything, and I was looking at going, okay, do we have to do anything? But you presented it to the board. It's for the board to review, and
we will report back. There's two areas we need to follow up on. The one where we got the 58% and the 94. So we'll report back to you on that.
Okay.
We're going to need to make adjustments on how we deal with the IPP objectives to make sure that it includes the amount and frequency of services. And so.
And that was in the report on nursing homes? Did I get
No, that's on the report. That's on the report on page 17. So that's from IPPs. It should be on page 17. Let's see it there. So what happens is they'll come back. We've got to basically look at our systems. They'll come back and make sure that our IPPs moving forward has that information in.
All right. Thank you. Any questions?
You can tell I love this stuff now. I was responsible for Medicaid waiver back at the other center years ago.
That's a lot. All right, so let's see then, is there any other board and community announcements?
No, I actually would like to ask for us to do one thing. I have been on the verge of tears since yesterday and what happened in Texas. So I'm hoping that we can just have one moment of silence for the children and teachers that died yesterday. I think it's really important. We keep going about our business, and our business is children and families. So if we could just have one moment of silence, I think that's important.
I agree, Gigi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We did need that. Thank you.
Okay, then the meeting is adjourned at 8:36, and we will now move to closed session.
Sheila, are you going to use this link?
Well, we're going to use it because we have a closed session with Mr. Hill and some staff, so it will be on this link.
Okay, then let me make you hold.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, everyone, for being here.